again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of 30 Years Ago, this month. So for those who missed last month's episode, this is a series of videos where I am going to be flashing back to the year 1992. And for each month, there will be a new video talking about what went on in that particular month 30 years ago. Now, yeah, this is just going to be all shit that I'm interested in, but I'm going to try to keep it pretty interesting. So this month, it's February. Can we just agree to change it to February? Because everyone says it that way. It's weird. Why is it written that way? Anyway, whatever the month is called, it was a big month for music. So let's jump right into it. In music news, this month in 1992, Vince Neil announced that he had left Motley Crue, and Motley Crue announced that they had kicked Vince Neil out, which I guess both things happened. And then eventually they would get John Corabi on vocals for one album, but you know how that all went. But yeah, 30 years ago this month was when everybody found out that Vince wasn't in Motley Crue anymore. At that time, it seemed ridiculous. Like, how would you even continue Motley Crue without Vince? I bet now they're thinking a little differently about that. Also, this month in 1992, some news that some of you would think is great and some of you might think is horrible news. This month in 1992, Kurt Cobain married Courtney Love. And the rest is... yeah. Despite what you think about Courtney Love and despite all the weirdness surrounding their relationship, if you look at a lot of the clips from when they first got together and even, after they had their baby, he seemed like he was a dude in love. And who are we to fuck with that, right? And in the music charts in America this month in 1992, the number one song, like, on top of everything, was I'm Too Sexy by Right Said Fred. The 90s were weird, but I'm Too Sexy was number one for 3 weeks. It was the most popular song in the country for 3 entire weeks. And on the album charts, there was a little bit of a tug of war between the reigning number one album, Nevermind by Nirvana. Nevermind went number one last month in January, and then all of a sudden, a new number one just came in and stole the shit right from them. And who was that? Who could that have been? That's right, it was Garth Brooks with Rope in the Wind. But then the week after that, Nevermind took the top spot back in February. But then guess what? After that, Garth Brooks took it right back from Nirvana. And in total, Rope in the Wind by Garth Brooks was number one, the number one album in the country for 10 weeks. Nevermind was number one for 2. So, I mean, it's weird how history works. I guess if you're a country fan, Rope in the Wind's a fucking massive album, but it wasn't a game changer. Maybe it was kind of a game changer for country. Maybe was that when pop country kind of like kicked in? Maybe we got 2 game changers battling it out. So that is music history right there, folks. Whatever you think about Garth Brooks. But unfortunately, Nirvana lost the battle, and Rope in the Wind took the number one spot in February for the last half of the month or so. All right, now let's talk about albums and other music releases from February of 30 years ago, 1992. This one came out on February 4th. These are all dates that I tried to do my due diligence looking up dates on the internet, so if I'm wrong on some account, sue me. But it came out sometime around now. The first EP from Alice in Chains, Sap, came out. This is not an OG. I don't even know if there's an OG vinyl version of it. This is the music on vinyl one that's got both of these. Pretty sweet. But we're not talking about this one. Don't even look at that. We're talking about Sap, which was, to me, was a big deal because Facelift came out and I liked it. At the time, it didn't totally blow me away. But for some reason, when SAP came out, I guess because I think I've said this again before on an old video, but I was just blown away. I'm like, this is an all acoustic EP, and it's totally awesome to me. And it was really important because it established that Alice in Chains was not just this hard rock grungy band. They could do this kind of shit too. And later on they would do more of this style of shit. But this was the first time we got to hear that. It was released with basically no promotion. It just ended up in the record stores, and people who were fans got it. The rest is history. Now it's an EP that everybody loves. But back then it was kind of a really small release, but in the story of Alice in Chains, a very important one. Okay, now we're going to do like a movie album combo here. On February 14th, Valentine's Day of 1992, one of my favorite movies of all time was released, and that was Wayne's World. To me, an absolute comedy classic, still a movie that I enjoy thoroughly today. It was a big deal for me because, like I said, 1992, I was 13-ish, and I felt like the movie was made for me. In fact, I saw it in the theater at least 5 times, maybe 6 times. I know 5 for sure. So that's how excited I was and into Wayne's World I was.
Does this guy know how to party or what? Huh? Okay.
But then a few days later, on February 18th, the soundtrack for Wayne's World came out. I'm not going to talk about this one too much because I did an entire video on this soundtrack, and I will post a link in the video description if you want to watch the whole thing. It's a really great video that didn't get really any fucking views. What is that all about? But anyway, so you've got the Wayne's World soundtrack. Both of these things, the movie and the soundtrack, were super successful. The movie ended up being the #1 movie in the country, I think, for 4 weeks, and it was in February and March. It was like the #1 movie. And then the soundtrack eventually became also the #1 album in the country, but that wasn't until April. So we'll talk about this again in April. Now let's wrap this up by talking about a huge release day, in my opinion, February 25th. First off, let's discuss some non-metal and rock things because I like some of that shit too. First off, the last album from Boogie Down Productions, which is called Sex and Violence, came out on the 25th. At that point, Boogie Down Productions was essentially just KRS-One, and then after this, he would just start making albums under his own name. But Sex and Violence is a great album, and the last of an era under the name Boogie Down Productions. By the way, all those words I just said are hip-hop words, in case you didn't know. Also, on February 25th, we got the debut album from TLC. That's right, T-Boz, Chili, Left Eye. We get introduced to them for the first time. The album is called Ooh on the TLC Tip, and probably one of my favorite R&B albums ever made. But I'm a sucker for that late 80s, early 90s R&B. And this is a great album. Wouldn't end up being their biggest album, but it was a big deal for me when it came out. And it's still an album that I enjoy a whole fucking lot today. Rest in peace, Lisa Left Eye Lopez. All right, now let's get heavy again. Also, on February 25th, keeping going, the same exact fucking day, the third full-length album from the Rollins Band, The End of Silence. To me, by a landslide, the best Rollins Band album. This album is a motherfucker. It just ruled. Look at Rollins. Look at that. I mean, if you're into that kind of thing. But yeah, this is... It's like a fucking heavy psyche jam band with a hardcore vocalist. I know a lot of you probably know Henry Rollins, but maybe you don't listen to his music very much. Some of this, maybe not this album, but some Rollins Band stuff is a little bit of an acquired taste. But if you were ever going to jump into the Rollins Band, I would say this is the album to start with because it's just fucking killer from begin to end. And so there you go, the end of silence. Okay, wrapping up February 25th. Like I said, a huge day for music releases. Is the 6th, or as we thought at the time, 2nd album from Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power. Do I even need to say anything about this album? I mean, I feel like I've talked about this album enough times on my channel, and if you don't already know it, I mean, go listen to it. I'm pretty sure everyone already has their own opinions on Pantera, and I'm not here to change that. This album is awesome. One of my favorite metal albums ever. Yeah, when it came out, I almost even think that when they were talking about the album, like on MTV and whatnot, they referred to it as the 2nd Pantera album, and it's the 6th Pantera album. Later, we would find out that they did a whole lot of shit earlier that I guess they were ashamed of. I don't know why they were ashamed. It's also good shit. It's not this good, but it's good. Anyway, so yeah, Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power, wrapping up February 25th, and wrapping up this episode of 30 years ago this month. So that was a big month. And like I said, there may be some releases that came out in this month that you think are great. Maybe I don't like them, or they just weren't even on my radar. But yeah, this is just all the shit from back in the day. A lot of it, like, as I remember it, like, oh, I remember when this shit came out. Because I was, like I said, I was finally at that age where I knew what was going on in music. I knew when things were coming out. I knew bands, well, I was getting there. I was 13. But anyway, I guess I was still 12. I was 12 in February. I would turn 13 next month. So we'll talk about that on the next episode of 30 Years Ago this month. Thank you for joining me this month. I will see you again next month. All right. Bye.